I've done the first one.
So you do
The second one. And then I moved on.
So you live in Haiti?
I did.
So I
Yeah, I
did the
worked in
second
Fayetteville.
one, shifted to now.
Started about a 30-minute drive, but.
Sorry, no, nothing to say sorry for.
Dude, I got
I didn't take up the entire road.
And then, will you be able to see all the chat? No, I can't, well, she just wait till she said I'm not going. She just wanted to ride, so. Okay. Okay, that's cool. You carry on first. Okay.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
I'm not taking much.
Just not terrible.
Look, so I got these off of Google.
Dr. Ted would
Online,
hear us in here.
But, you know, they used to be like both me and they change your name. But I've also seen them online prescription glass places have these glasses. They all have different colors. So I'm trying to stop myself from ordering the same pair and
Oh, you're on all?
Yeah.
yeah, but I already have.
Okay, for those of you joining us virtual, if you could let me know if you could hear us, okay? A thumbs up in the chat. Thumbs up. Okay, they can hear us okay. Great. Perfect. I have 2 thumbs up, so we're good. Okay, I have the meeting recording, so that's started. If you would just remain muted if online, then if you have a question, put it in the chat box, and then at the end of the presentation, there'll be time for questions, and I'll come back and check on those. Can you see the screen okay with the thumbs up? Yes. Okay. We are good. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move this down here and introduce our speaker today. We have Dr. Aynur Charkasova, and she's been teaching here for 2 years. Her interest research include international HRD, program evaluation, adult learning and development, employment law, human resource development and management, as well as adult learning and strategies.
Thank you.
Yes, all right, and I'm going to let you take over.
Thank you so
All right.
much. I'm so happy finally meeting in person. I've been here for 2 years. I don't think I've ever met any of my students in person, of course. So this is my opportunity to just tell you a little bit about my research background. More than anything, I think my focus for today is just to share you my experience as a student when it comes to research, what kind of experience I had as a doctoral student, because you all are students here and I graduated less than 2 years ago. So it's kind of fresh graduate. I know research is important, research is stressful. So I will just very informal share what I did that worked or did not work out for my research projects, for my dissertation, for my thesis. So this will be very informal. Please don't wait to ask me a question until the end. After each slide, you have a question, I would love to answer that so we can have just a discussion. Very informal, nothing formal, but again, my main goal is just to explain you why research is important. It's very important to me. If you have taken courses with me, you know I can get a little bit mean when you submit a research project, right? I have to read every word. I give you comments, I give you my feedback because again, I really value research skills, not in the workplace, but I think it's very important to you as a professional, as a person. Yes, that's it. So I just want to share the steps, easy steps in this process and what I did when I was a student. So let's start. I will start with the agenda. So today I will talk about a couple things about when it comes to research, like why are they even important to employers? You may think that, I said the research skills are important to me because I'm a faculty, but you might think that we are not going to teach, we are not going to academia. Why should we bother learning all these research steps and skills, right? Are they really important to our employers? Do we have an employer here? All students, okay, that's fine. Why do I need research skills as a person, as a professional? And then we will start. How can I pick a research question, right? That's the number one step. It's not even a step. First, you pick up your research question, then you move to other steps, right? How do I gather data? It's very important. No research without data, right? You need to have a data in order to have any kind of research project. What do I do with the results, right? I have a data, I interpret it, what am I going to do with the results? Is it even important? And what are some of possible implications? We can do research, we can have data, we can have results, but now what, right? Does it have any meaning in the real world, in our field? So just just brainstorm. First question, are research skills even important to employers? Just look back at the places you worked before. What do you think? Did they ever ask you to do something that's research related?
Sure, gathering employee engagement data.
Gathering data gathering, yes. It's one of the important steps in research projects. What else? I had bosses that came to me with a big project, literally like this. This is the project. You have 2 months, give me good product, okay? That means in these 2 months, I did nothing but research and come up with a solution, implementation, or some kind of product that company will use, right? What else? What else? Research, well, what research can also teach us, this process. It teaches us time management, right? It teaches us to be patient. It teaches us to have critical thinking skills, right? I said time management. Those are all things that we actually use in our workplace, problem solving, right? So these are the skills that every employer in every country appreciates right now. And these are the skills that you can actually gain while you are working on a research project. And we will talk a little bit about this later. Yes. We just mentioned some of the skills here that employers value research skills because it helps the company to develop a new product or new service, right? What happens when the company wants to develop a new product or service? What they need first? Data, exactly. What worked before, right?
Yeah.
What was successful, what failed previously? Yeah. They need to know everything before they make that big step. That's a #1 research skill, right? And you have to help your company, and they need these kind of employers to be able to help the company if they are planning to, launch a new product or a service. So, second one, identify the needs and wants of their customers, okay? Again, customer surveys, right? That's a data gathering means that we all see all across the United States. Another skill here, improve what they do. Sometimes they might have a service or a product or a project, but they need you to help them to improve, to process, right? And to keep up changes in the industry and compete in the market, right? That's one of the important things for every company. And what they need good employees with good resource skills, right? Just overall good skills that they know what's going on, they are up to date. And then it requires research skills, right? You should be able to know what is going on. And we will talk a little bit about this when we go to next steps. I also mentioned that research is very important to you and to me as a person in my personal life, but at the same time in my professional life. Like, what does it tell you? Like, why do you need research skills as an HRD professional in your personal life or in your professional life? You need to make informed decision, right, about something. Even in your personal relationships, in your career development, you need some resource skills. Maybe you are looking for a new school, a new Ph.D. program. You need research skills. And I remember when I was an undergrad student, I realized that I didn't do a good job looking for a master's program. I should have done a better research, finding more suitable programs for me. I guess I lacked that skill, so I ended up in a place that I wasn't really super happy, but then I realized why. Yes, we need to locate the information and evaluate it for quality, right? And once we have the information, we should be able to make a good use of the information to resolve a problem, resolve an issue. That's very handy in the workplace. In conflict management, when you have to make an important decision, you need all kinds of. You need to be able to gather your data, but at the same time assess it, right, properly. Ability to synthesize and communicate your ideas in a written or spoken format. Another reason I give my students hard time when it comes to research projects because I see you as HRD professionals, right? You will graduate from this program with an advanced degree, master's or a PhD. Well, if you cannot put together a simple research project, or if you cannot communicate your research results, that means we failed as a program. That means I failed as a faculty. Okay, it's very important for me because you will represent this university after you graduate. So I want you to have those skills in the workplace and in your professional life because you will be our alumni and you will always represent our program. We already talked about critical thinking and time management. Research can be very stressful process, right? You need to have a patience. You need to have a good time management and good critical thinking skills. It also helps you with your social skills, actually. I forgot to include that because if you are not for a research paper, but once you are in a dissertation process, once you are in a thesis process, you will have a committee, right? You will have committee members. You have to interact with faculty, other people. Let's say you are presenting your research in a conference. So it actually helps you with social skills as well. And you know how to get along with people in order for them to help you in this project. And their research skills are generally highly transferable to different settings, including the workplace. Any questions so far before we actually start talking about specific research? Just steps. What is the very first step in research? I think it's not even a step. First thing is you have to find out what's your passion, right? What are you passionate about? Topic. How many of you here have trouble finding the topic that really interests you? I teach capstone course for our undergrad program. It's a little bit more challenging in that level because undergrad students keep telling me that we have never written a research paper before. I don't think we even have a research interest. I never thought about this. I'm a practitioner. I'm not going to the industry. So we talk over the phone. I talk to those students. I'm like, where do you work? So they say, for example, banking sector. I'm like, okay, there must be something around you that interests you. Just you're a little bit curious about. Then they eventually find that, oh yes, maybe mentoring in banking sector, or I don't know, employee recruitment and retention in the banking sector. So you really find, I'm sure that everyone has at some point some kind of curiosity, right? Some interest. You don't know that you have them until you actually try to think about it. So this is the process. You will never wake up and say that, oh, I have my research topic. I found it, right? That will never happen. It's a long process. Sometimes you think like, oh, okay, I'm interested in this research topic. Then you do your homework, you spend some time on it. Then you're like, no, that's not for me. That happened to me. Or sometimes it's a dead end, right? You like, that's not gonna go anywhere. So I cannot pick this as a topic for my thesis or dissertation or in a research paper, right? So this is a long process. It might be successful, it might be unsuccessful, depending on your case. If it's not leading to success, that's fine. You just focus on something else. But I'm sure that eventually at the end of the process, you will be able to find something that you're really interested in. Yes, and the problem is, another important thing is you should evaluate your motivation. You will be spending lots of time on this. Let's say you pick the research topic, right? You will spend a lot of time on this, day and night, months, maybe years. So you really should find something that you are really, really motivated, you're really passionate about. When I was a student, I don't think that I would ever finish my dissertation if I didn't like my topic. I was so interested about finding out the results, and that kept me going in the dissertation process. When I was a student, I made mistakes too. I remember one of my professors coming to me with a research project, and he asked me, do you want to be part of this? I was like, yeah, of course. It was about servant leadership after COVID-19, and I jumped to that opportunity because I need a publication. After we finished that research project, I said, I'm never, ever doing research on this because I realized servant leadership is just not my thing. I'm not interested in this. My research is mostly in immigration in workforce, skilled immigration in adult learners. So leadership, servant leadership was not my cup of tea. So sometimes you find this out in the process. And again, if you are not really, really passionate, motivated about it, you probably won't see the end of it, right? maybe it's my case, I don't know, I'm sharing my experience, but that internal motivation is very important for me. I need to like the topic in order for me to continue and process. Okay, when I was an undergrad student, when I just started my grad program, I should give you a little bit of background. I come from a university undergrad program that had no focus on research at all, like zero. We never wrote a research project, we never wrote a research paper. We didn't have a capstone, we just had an exam test to take in order to graduate. So zero background in research. Then I started my master's program, and I had an impression that I should find a research topic that is unique. No one has ever wrote about this. You know, it's something that it's a world premiere. I will be the first one who does this. Then I realized that after passing time that, well, there's a reason why people actually keep studying similar things, right? Number one, no research project is perfect, and I will keep saying this. So maybe people have done research on this topic previously, but all research has limitations, right? Since nothing is ever perfect, you always have a room to make it even better. Sometimes people, let's say you found a research topic that no one ever worked on it. But that means that maybe it's a useless topic, right? Maybe that problem has no implication in real life. Maybe it has just no real life application. That's why no one ever studied this. So when you are looking for a research project, don't try to be unique, to do something that, oh my God, anyone has ever done. Instead, try to focus on the meaning of the project, right? Meaning on the research. Why is it even important? Why am I interested in doing this? How can it be applied in real world? Or what kind of benefit it will have to my profession, to HRD in general, right? And doing something that no one has ever done, there's no way of verifying that, right? Just because we Googled something and we didn't find the result doesn't mean that no one ever looked at this research topic. I love this saying that nothing is new under the sun. So you never know. Narrowing it down, that's one of the big problems I see when I teach research classes, that students have very, very broad research topics, right? But that's the challenge. It used to be difficult for me too. In research, you kind of have to be very narrow. Not narrow, too narrow, but just specific. Let's just use the word in specific, right? Let's say I had a student saying that she wanted to write her research paper about women in workforce. I'm like, that can mean so many things. What women, what workforce, which country, which setting, which industry, that can mean so many things. So this is not a good research topic. It's a good start point, but that's not a good research topic, right? So always try to narrow it down. And again, if you spend enough time on your research, if you just keep thinking about it, keep doing your homework, you will be able to narrow it down because the previous literature will guide you. And I will talk about this later. And mind mapping and keyword searching is very important. At the early stage, let's say you have a research topic on mind, it will be very chaotic, right? It's very chaotic on my mind. I don't know where to start. I don't know how to progress, right? So mind mapping really helps you a little bit, and keyword searching helps you a little bit. And when I teach a capstone course, we have outline thing. So once you have, you pick the topic, you can actually start outlining. Just first step, I can do this. Of course, it's a draft, nothing ever goes as planned, but mind mapping and outline writing, keywords, those will help you at least to move to the next stage. Otherwise, you will always be stuck in the first place, which means finding a research topic. We'll just think about it, and if you overthink, you usually give up. That's what I do. If I'm thinking too much about it, just seems too challenging to me, I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna do this. But if you do something about this, outline some kind of plan that actually helps you with the next stage. How to pick a research question? This is the single most important thing, one of the most important thing in research projects, in dissertation writing or in thesis writing. Again, you have to find a topic that really interests you. To me, it's very hard to keep focused on things that I have no interest in. For example, K-12 education, I can never do research about that. I'm just not interested in K-12. It's not my fault, I'm not interested in this. I cannot sit even in a lecture that talks about K-12 education for 5 minutes. I will just leave the room. I am not interested. And that's okay because as researchers, we have very broad interests, and that's the beauty of this. I went to big AHRD conference last week in Minnesota. I found no one with my research interest in the entire conference because I have very specific research interest about skilled immigration in STEM workforce. There were people with similar topics, but like exactly this topic, I found no one. And that's okay. You don't have to have same research interest with other people because you as a researcher, you have your goal, you have your motivation, and you should stick to that. When I was a PhD student, we had no faculty in the entire department that was slightly related to my topic. I said, you know what, I'm doing this dissertation. This will be my topic. And faculty gave up at last. They were like, okay, she's not going to pick anything else. That's her topic. She will stick with this. And I did, and I'm glad that I did because I'm interested in that topic, specifically in that topic. And there's nothing else I would want to do. And that curiosity, that motivation helped me to graduate at the end. Again, if I picked another topic, I don't think I would finish it. I wouldn't just be interested in. So find something that you really like. And that's okay if other people are not interested in this. As a researcher, you have a right to pick your own topic, okay? So focus on your motivation, your interest, rather than others around you. I mean, in this department, we have 5 faculty, right? We all have different interests of research topics. It's not overlapping, it's not close to each other, and that's okay. Yes, do your homework, right? I talked very briefly about this preliminary reading about your topic. It's called reviewing existing literature, right? This can be a long process, but it's a very useful process. In this process, you may actually end up changing your research topic. Not entirely, but your focus might shift a little bit. It might help you to actually narrow down your topic because the more you read, the more research you will see, what others have done previously before you, and you will see the gap, right? Oh, they did this study, but they did not really focus on that aspect. They did, and you will see the limitation section of every study. And that's a good start point. Like, oh, maybe I can address this, right? And this could be some of the problems that I can address in my dissertation, or in my paper, in my thesis, doesn't matter. So previous literature is actually your guidance. It helps you a lot. You may end up changing your topic. You may end up narrowing it down. You may end up finding some other subtopics that you're actually more interested in. In my case, reviewing relevant literature actually helped me to pick up my methodology because I could clearly think what others have been doing, not incorrectly, but so I will tell you a little bit and you'll have better understanding. My research was about the wage gap between skilled immigrants and US citizens in STEM jobs. For the same type of job, I wanted to see if immigration status has any effect on salaries, right? If people are discriminated because they are immigrants, they're not US citizens, they are here on a temporary work visa. So I started doing my research. It really helped me a lot, previous literature, but at the same time, it confused me. But that was a good kind of confusion because it led me to somewhere. Why I was confused? I read thousands of articles, everything I could find for months and months, maybe 6 months, maybe 1 year. And that's okay, you should take a lot of time to read the previous literature. I realized that there are 3 groups of scholars, and they all believe in something different. So first group of scholars believe that in general, skilled immigration is very important for the United States because this country was based on immigrants. Now skilled immigrants are coming to US to fill out the jobs, important jobs in IT, engineering, mathematics. I'm talking about skilled immigrants in STEM. And we know there are many jobs that are open, and it just skilled immigrants are helping America to compete in global arena, right? They are helping the US economy. So they are good for this country. There were second group of scholars that believed the opposite. They said, no, skilled immigration is actually harming this country. Those are skilled people, but they are taking lower paid jobs. They're taking jobs away from American citizens, and American companies are seeing them as a cheap source of labor. So they are bringing all these people overseas, offering them half what they would offer US citizen, and they are working for them. Now our citizens are unemployed. I was okay. Then I realized there's a third trend. Those were neutral people. They were saying that immigration is good and bad at the same time. They were saying that, yes, skilled immigrants are good. They bring lots of innovation, diversity to U.S. workforce, but they do lower salaries of U.S. citizens. So I was just a reader. I didn't know what to believe, whom to believe, right? Because I'm reading all this literature review, and it's just all over the place. I don't know whom to believe. But then I realized what was the problem here. I realized that 99% of all the papers that I'm reading is a quantitative analysis. It was based on statistical results. And these authors, these people took very different salary databases. They compared salaries. They all used different statistical methods. One used ANOVA, one used ANCOVA, the other one used regression analysis. That's why their results are so misleading. And I, as a reader, don't know what to believe and whom to believe. There was only one study, one single study. It was published 25 years ago and was cited more than 500 times. This study was different than others because it had qualitative approach. This professor, I think he's from UCLA, he did a focus group study, qualitative study. Instead of looking at the salary data, he actually interviewed people and asked them, what's your experience? Do you believe that you're making less money? Just talked about the immigration issues. And I realized that, okay, not only people believe in different things, but their results are really misleading. I mean, it's just a little bit confusing. So that helped me to pick up my methodology. And I wanted to combine strength of both methods and do a mixed method study, right? Because I wanted to look at the data. At the same time, I wanted to look at the story behind the data. So in this case, reviewing relevant literature not only helped me to better understand my research project, but I could see the gap in the methodology, right? It really helped me during my dissertation defense, because they asked me why you decided to do a mixed method study. And if you are a PhD student, your faculty, your committee will ask you, why qualitative study? Why quantitative? You have to justify. That was my justification. I said, my literature review results are misleading. I don't know what to believe, and I need to strength of both methods. I need to combine them to understand the holistic picture of what is going on, right? Yes, narrow down to a specific niche. Again, literature review will help you narrowing it down. It's okay if you are starting this process with a broad idea. That's perfectly fine. That's why you have to come up with keywords and start reading relevant literature. At the end, again, you might spend 6 months, maybe a year, maybe it will be just 1 month, but at the end, I'm sure that you will be able to narrow it down, and it's very important. If your research topic is too broad, your dissertation committee will not approve that. Okay, they will not approve your topic if it's too broad, because that's not how research is done. It kind of has to be very specific. Yes, and we talked about the research question, but I'm sure you realize that the first problem is to find a research problem. That research problem will lead you to research question, right? My case, I could see, I'm an immigrant, I'm a skilled immigrant, and I could see a lot of loophole, a lot of gap in immigration policy. So immigration policy was the problem for me. It hasn't been updated. It's not immigrant friendly. It's not employer friendly either. So my problem was the immigration policy itself, but it's very broad, right? So I narrowed down to skilled immigrants in STEM jobs and to their salaries. So that was my research question, okay? So your research problem is broad. Your research question can also be broad, but at the end, you will be able to narrow it down to a specific problem, to specific topic, okay? And when you do this, make sure that you make a note, because again, you will be asked this question, why this is a problem? Like your faculty can be very weird about that. Like they know what the problem is, but they will ask you, I don't see any problem in immigration, it's great. Why are you worried about this? Or why are you worried about skilled immigrants? Why you pick this topic? So make sure that you are prepared to answer those questions. They will ask you. They need to hear it from you, why you think this research problem is important, why you chose this specific research question. There can be more than one research question, by the way. For thesis or for small research projects, it's okay to have one. For my dissertation, I had six. I had 6 research questions. So turn your research problem into research question. Do you have any questions about this? Anything you would like to share? Does it make sense? Okay. Okay. So now you have a research question, right? Not all the research questions are good. And your faculty will challenge you about that. A good research question should have all this. It should be focused, right? We start with the large, but then we go to narrow. It should be researchable. Let's not forget about that. There are so many things that I'm personally curious about, but I cannot measure, right? For example, why Japanese people live so long? I went to Japan, I saw longevity in Japan, but I love this topic, but realistically, I cannot do this research. I cannot measure this. I'm not in Japan, I'm not in that field. So you might have curiosity about something, but think about that. Is it realistic? Can you actually measure it? There are things that you cannot really measure. Feasible. It should be a feasible problem, and it should be a specific problem. We already talked about this. But at the same time, it should be specific, but it shouldn't be simple. If that's a very simple question that you can give an answer with yes or no, that's not qualified enough to be a research question. Do birds sing in the morning? Yeah, right? That's not a research question. It's a question, but it's not a research question. If there is no but, however, after yes or no, that means problem is not complex enough for you to study. Even my quantitative questions, when my first quant question in my dissertation was, do immigrants make less money compared to their US counterparts? My answer was no, but there was but. Okay, I had to explain. And my but was like, it depends on their degree, how advanced they have a degree, how many experience they have in the workforce, what kind of employer they are working for. Because salaries can vary from big corporates to small organizations. My research showed that Google, IBM, those big names, Facebook, they offer good salary policies. Their salary policies are very clear, both to US citizens and to skilled immigrants. But there are some small companies that it's not really clear. It's a case-by-case thing. Or degree of origin. Some people made less money because their degrees were not from the United States. They said that our employers value US education. So other immigrants who got their degrees from the US making more money because they're terminal degrees from this country. So these are the questions that the but, however, facts that help us to understand the problem. That means this is a complex research question. If it's super simple, again, you can just simply say yes or no. There is no background of that. There's nothing else to explain. That means your research question is not complex enough. It has to be complex, okay? And relevant, of course. You want to do something that's relevant to program, HRD, 10 minutes? Oh my God, okay. HRD, because your faculty, other researchers will challenge you. Why this topic is important? Why are we wasting our time in your dissertation or your thesis? Tell us how we will implement it, okay? I have to do it. We talked about this, right? Read broadly about your subject. It's more important than you think. Not only it will help you to narrow down your topic, but you will find the gaps, you will find limitations, and that will help you. And that will lead you in your research project. In my case, it actually helped me to find my methodology. Utilize scholarly resources. Yes, do not, no Wikipedia, no sketchy websites. It's okay to use websites. It's always recommended to use scholarly resources, of course. I use websites for my dissertation because U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, Department of Labor, there are so many organizations that deal with immigration and they had good policy information. Of course I use it, that's legit, but if you use weird websites, okay, no. Because the information you gather there might not be accurate, might not really be reliable. Talk to the librarian. You probably have taken class with me. I mention it all the time. Librarians are the best resources to start. When I was a grad student, first thing I did, made an appointment with the librarian. They tell you how to reach out to these good sources, the lit review that we are talking about. Because if you just Google it, do a general Google search, you will be frustrated. You won't find the things that you're looking for. But librarians are actually tell us how to work with keywords, also relevancy to our field, how to narrow it down. They are great tools. So please use librarian and make an appointment with them. It really, really helps. Campus resources, the writing center, as I mentioned, tutoring center, librarians are great sources. Also, University of Arkansas actually pays for several databases that other people, like non-US, non-University of Arkansas students don't have access to. Sometimes you cannot find the article that you think is going to help you. You can just tell them the name and the librarian will find you and email you the PDF. That's what I do usually. So they actually can reach out to more stuff than we do. And refine and structure your questions. Again, you start very broad, then you narrow it down, but there's always room for you. Just refine your research question. You don't have to change the meaning of your research question, just word it differently, okay? I will move to the next step. Okay, let's review, synthesize everything you have read. Do not summarize. Let's review is not a summary of what you have read. It's more complex than that. It's a very complex cognitive task doing the literature review. Sometimes lit review is more tiresome to me than actual data gathering or data mining process, because you read all this literature, you are so lost, I don't know, you don't know how to synthesize them. So this can be actually a challenging portion of your research. It's very important, but it can be difficult. The more you write, the better you become, okay? Include variety of sources, journals, books, websites, data, other statistics, but so don't only rely on books or don't only rely on, I don't know, peer-reviewed articles, but you can use a variety of sources that actually will make your arguments stronger. Recent literature, yes, your department, your faculty, your dissertation committee will not approve if you are using a source that was published in 1970s. That's not relevant anymore. Okay, not all the time. For example, if you are talking about specific theory, that's okay. Theories don't change, right? It was adopted in 70s, 60s, 50s, that's perfectly fine. But if you are using statistical information that you took from an article published 25 years ago, 30, 40 years ago, the faculty will like, okay, give me the recent statistics. What's happening in the last 10 years? So last 10 years means 2013. Anything before 2013 is too old, unfortunately, in research field. Organize your resources and references. I don't always do a good job with this. I will have to admit, I have all these references, all these sources, and I keep writing my lit review. I realize that I am not citing anyone, or I'm citing very, not properly. That means I have to work harder. So you have to work smarter, not harder, right? It means you wrote a sentence, you paraphrase, give the source, right? Text is cited in text. When you took that sentence, so it will just make your life miserable. I've made that mistake. I wasn't always good in organizing my sources or citing while I'm writing. It just made my life really difficult. There are softwares now, EndNote, other softwares that actually helps you to include your citation while you're writing. University of Arkansas has that access to those software, so you can download it for free. So you can actually use it that way. I like old-fashioned way. I like to do everything manually, but there are technology that will help you. Avoid direct quotes. I cannot say this enough. Every time I teach a research course, I read a research paper, it drives me crazy. And students think that research paper means quoting non-stop quote, direct quote, when I'm active. That's not a research project. You don't write research like this. Be very careful how you use direct quotes. For my entire dissertation, it was like 150 pages. I had 0 direct quote, none. Because it's so specific that you should think 10 times before you include it in your paper. Always paraphrase. It should be so specific, as I said, that you decide that there's no way I can paraphrase this sentence, it has to be a direct quote. Just be careful. Do not overuse, just use it wisely. Okay. Okay, I would like to show you this. This video, it talks about evaluating your sources and you will check for crop. Okay.
You have a paper to write, and you need to find information about your topic. The information is out there in different types of documents, books, articles, websites, and more. But there's a problem. Many of these sources are not appropriate for your paper. Some of them are irrelevant. Some of them are outdated. And some of them are just plain wrong. Your job is to distinguish between the good sources and the bad sources. This can be tricky, but here's a tool you can use to help. It's called the crop test. No, not crap, crop. It stands for currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, and purpose. These are the characteristics of good sources. Let's talk about what each one means. First, currency. Currency is how current or new a document is. If a document is too old, it might not cover recent discoveries. So, how current does a document need to be? Well, it depends on two things. First, is this a science topic or a humanities topic? The sciences change rapidly. If you're writing about a science topic, you have to find recent documents in order to keep up with new information. The humanities more slowly. A document in the humanities can be useful even if it's several decades old. The social sciences are in between. Second, is it a historical document? Historical documents are valuable because they're old. They provide first-hand reports of historic events. They don't need to be current. Next is relevance. If you're writing about Shakespeare, a book about dolphins is not going to help you. Even if it's the best book ever written about dolphins, it's irrelevant. So the document needs to be about your topic. But even if it is, it can still be irrelevant if it's not written for an audience of scholars. For example, the magazines at grocery stores are irrelevant because they're written for the general public, not for scholars. Authority. Who's the author? How do we know that the author is an expert? It's hard to tell at a glance, but here are some things you can look for. Does the author have a degree in his or her field? Is the author affiliated with a university? Is there a list of other publications by the author? An author doesn't have to have all of these things to be an authority, but you'd expect to see at least some of them. If you don't see any of these things, try Googling the author's name. You can learn a lot about an author from his or her webpage. Okay, accuracy. Some documents are not accurate, or in other words, wrong. Sometimes it's easy to spot the mistakes, but some mistakes are more subtle, and you might not spot them. If you're not sure whether a document is accurate or not, a good rule of thumb is to look for citations. Citations show where the author got the information. You can go straight to the source and see what it says. Finally, purpose. Why did the author create the document? Some documents are created to inform or educate their readers. Those are the documents you want to find. But other documents are created for other purposes. Some are meant to be entertaining. Others are opinion pieces or propaganda. And a lot of authors, especially on the web, are trying to sell you something. If you're having trouble determining the purpose of a document, look for these clues. Where was the document published? In a journal, a magazine, a newspaper, a book? And What tone does the author use? If authors have an academic purpose in mind, they'll write in a formal tone. If they have some other purpose in mind, they might write in an informal tone. So, currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, and purpose.
I have to stop it here, I'm sorry. I have 4 more slides to cover. So yes, now I have to be very quick. You picked your topic, you have done your lit review right now. What's the 5th step? Choosing the methodology, right? Very, very, very important. How do you choose your method? You look at the nature of your question, how you word it. If your question seems to you like a closed-ended question, that problem is it's a quantitative question, right? Like as was mine. Do skilled immigrants make less money than US citizens? Yes or no? That means I have to look at the salary data to see. That means it's a quantitative nature of question. If your question sounds like this, what are the lived experiences of particular group? What are the perspective of blah, blah, blah? That means the nature of your question is qualitative, right? You are looking for challenges, the story behind all of these problems. That means you have to conduct qualitative study. Sometimes, like I did, you want to combine the strength of both methods and do mixed method study. And there are different ways that you can do mixed method study. But important question here to ask, do I have time, necessary skills, and fun to conduct the research? Research projects, data gathering can be expensive, can be time consuming. So, or let's say you want to do quantitative statistical analysis, you have statistical skills to be able to, carry out this research. So these are some of the important questions that you may want to ask before you actually decide. Some of the methods of the quantitative research, data collection for quant research, online surveys, offline surveys, interviews, observations, and reviewing existing documents. In my case, I did this one. I didn't go ahead and collect the salary data. I had no means, I couldn't reach out to so many people. So I used a publicly available salary survey that was conducted by the Department of Labor. So, a method of data collection for qualitative research, questionnaires, interviews, they can be semi-structured or structured, focus groups, observation, records, archival reviews. So these are some of the ways you can gather data for your research project. So once you collected your data, you worked on your data, you have to always focus on limitations of your research, right? No research project will ever be perfect. There will be limitations, there will be shortcomings. So, and you have to include that in your dissertation, in your thesis, in your paper that you publish for journal. These are the limitations of this study, and that's perfectly normal. Every study has limitations. Can you generalize your findings? Yes or no? That's the main purpose of the research, right? We are trying to find an answer. If you interviewed K-12 teachers in the state of Arkansas, 7 teachers, can we talk about all K-12 teachers in the United States? No, this was just particular setting. What are the implications, right? Not all research have direct practical implication. My research had no practical implication at that point. It had policy implications. Hopefully in the future that when policy is reviewed, they could read my research to better understand the problem. So your research might have theoretical, policy, or practical implications, one of those. If you do the quantitative research and your results, if something is statistically significant, does it mean that it's practically significant? No, absolutely not. So you should be able to mention that in your dissertation when you talk about this. And what are your recommendations for future research, right? As I said, there's no perfect research, there's no perfect study, there's no perfect dissertation, it has all limitations, but at the same time, you as an author should indicate in the future, next author's literature should focus on these things that I could not cover in this project. And this is very normal that you should include that section. That's it.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I can just pull the attendance list from here.
Do you have any questions?
Don't forget the evaluation code on the back of your form that you can do.
Are you going to share your slides? Or
Sure, of course,
the
yes. session. Yeah, I'm very happy. Any questions about things that I talked today? Everything was clear, made sense? It's a process, it's a very tiring process, and I think getting a PhD has nothing to do with intelligence only. It is intelligence plus 50 other things, especially when you are in a research writing process. It will be stressful, it will be tiring, frustrating, but you have to kind of stick to this. And what helped me personally, my motivation. I was really curious about my topic. I wanted to see what happens at the end of my research project. So that was what inspired me. So I hope the same will happen to you too. But thank you for your time.
No questions in the chat.
No
So we're good.
question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.